the judicial system, and black bodies.
I lost my childhood. I lost my happiness. I don't really tell too much people about this, but it's like sometimes I talk to myself, and it's like it's actually embarrassing. Sometimes on the train or the bus, I have a whole conversation with myself for 5 to 10 minutes, and then it's like you're really crazy. Like you really talk to yourself. But being in solitary confinement that long without talking to anybody, I feel like that maybe had something to do with it, because that's where those habits started to pick up. You know, deep down, I'm a mess because it's like I'm 21 and in the inside I feel like I'm 40. I always believed in standing up for what I felt was right. And if I would have just been guilty, then my story would have never been heard. Nobody would have took the time to listen to me. I'd have been just another criminal.
Kalief Browder was arrested in 2010 for allegedly stealing a backpack and faced charges of robbery, grand larceny, and assault. His family couldn't afford the $3,000 bail, and he spent over 1,000 days in Rikers Island, awaiting trial, most of which was in solitary confinement. It should be noted that Kalief Browder declared his innocence immediately and stuck to his story. The police's witness changed his story and fled the country. While in Rikers Island, Browder endured physical and emotional abuse. He tried unaliving himself numerous times. He struggled with depression and paranoia after his release, and he was admitted to a psychiatric ward multiple times. Eventually, the charges against Browder were dismissed and he was released in 2013. However, the damage had been done and he struggled to reintegrate into society. In 2015, Browder took his own life, highlighting the long-term impact of his experiences in the judicial system.
I was cornered from in front of me with Mr. Zeminski, and there were
Kyle Rittenhouse is an American man who gained notoriety for unaliving two and wounding a third during protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin in 2020. He was 17 at the time and traveled to Kenosha from Illinois to protect businesses amid the unrest following the police shooting of Jacob Blake. Rittenhouse was charged with multiple felonies, including homicide, but was acquitted of all charges after a trial that garnered significant national attention.
I remember that I would yell for him, Trayvon. And then when he came, I would ask him to get the remote from my nightstand. And I mean, it was in arm's reach. And he would say, Ma, I can't believe you. And I would just laugh and tell him, thank you. I needed this. I needed to see you.
The case of 17-year-old Trayvon Martin. On the evening of February 26, 2012, Zimmerman observed Martin as he was returning to the Twin Lakes housing community after having walked to a nearby convenience store. At the time, Zimmerman was driving through the neighborhood on a personal errand. At approximately 7 p.m., Zimmerman called the Sanford Police emergency number to report a suspicious person in the Twin Lakes community. Zimmerman said, "We've had some break-ins in my neighborhood, and there's a real suspicious guy." He described an unknown male just walking around looking about in the rain and said, "The guy looks like he's up to no good, or he's on drugs or something." Zimmerman reported the person had in his hand a waistband and was walking around looking at homes. He also mentioned that Martin was wearing a dark hoodie, like a gray hoodie. On the recording, Zimmerman is heard saying, "People, please get away." About 2 minutes into the call, Zimmerman said, "He's running." The dispatcher said, "He's running? Which way is he running?" Noises on the tape at this point have been interpreted as some media outlets as the sound of the car door chime, possibly indicating Zimmerman opened his car door. Zimmerman followed Martin, eventually losing sight of him. The dispatcher asked Zimmerman if he was following him. When Zimmerman answered yeah, the dispatcher said, "We don't need you to do that." Zimmerman responded, "Okay." Zimmerman asked that police call him upon their arrival so he could provide his location. Zimmerman ended his call at 7:15. After Zimmerman ended his call with the police, a violent encounter took place between him and Martin. It ended with Zimmerman fatally unaliving Martin 70 yards from the rear door of the townhouse where Martin was staying. George Zimmerman was charged with second-degree stemming from the killing of Trayvon Martin on February 26, 2012. After 16 hours of deliberations over the course of 2 days, a 6-person jury rendered a not guilty verdict on both charges, including manslaughter.
Watching him transitioning from a baby, literally, into this beautiful flower a month or two before he got taken away from us.
Trayvon Martin was 17. Now in 2025 comes the story of Karmelo Anthony, who is a 17-year-old student charged with unaliving another student. Occurred under the Memorial High School tent in the stadium bleachers at approximately 10 a.m. on April 2nd, according to the arrest report. Responding officers said they spoke to multiple witnesses, including one who reported the altercation began after Metcalf told Anthony to move out from under the team's tent. Anthony allegedly confessed. Officers say he told them he was protecting himself, according to the arrest report. Anthony was initially held on $1 million bond. However, the bond was reduced to $250,000. Judge Angela Tucker said she considered several factors in setting the new bond amount, including Anthony's age, lack of criminal history, and close ties to the community. The outcome of Karmelo Anthony's case will depend on the evidence presented, the arguments made by the legal team, and the judge's interpretation of the law. While there are arguments for and against the potential fairness of the case, the judicial system is ultimately responsible for ensuring a fair and just outcome for Anthony. What are my views? If history is anything to go by, the system is biased against Anthony based on the color of his skin. Kyle Rittenhouse was freed after 87 days. Kalief Browder was freed after 1,000 days without being charged. George Zimmerman was found not guilty, and now Karmelo Anthony's life hangs in the balance. The case of Karmelo Anthony has caused racial tensions, with white people calling for the death penalty and black people pleading self-defense. The outcome of this case should prove interesting for the judicial system in America.